Bonjour, everybody. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz, and welcome to Communications from Home. And this is a live stream show for Star Nations Radio Network, and in combination with, powered by our partners at BeLive TV. So, welcome, everybody. I appreciate you being here with me. And this is Tuesday night, August 7th, 2018. I know. I always have to add the year in there. Do you ever forget what year it is? Sometimes I do. Especially early in the year, after the New Year's. I always kind of mess up the first check or two, putting the wrong date in. So welcome. It is a nice evening here in Tomah, Wisconsin. I live about an hour east of the Mississippi. And we've had cloud cover and kind of drizzly all day. And why do I say that's nice? Because we need the moisture. It hasn't really rained in quite a few days. And so my gardens are definitely needing some watering. So tonight is all about vows. And the title I gave the show tonight was The Vows We Make. And because we all do it. At some point in time, we all make a vow of some sort. And there is a place in our Akashic records where all those vows sit. And I was thinking about this the other day, about how vows that we make in the current life, but also possibly past lives or parallel lives, how they affect us today in modern day, right? So before we actually dive into that, what I'd like to do is ask those in the chat, if you wouldn't mind doing me a favor, and that is to like and share the show. And the reason why we ask you to do this is because we know for sure one thing about Facebook, and that is it really likes it when we do those things. It's an elusive creature. Every time we think that we understand it, they change something. And but there is one constant, and that is when we like, share, and comment on live stream shows, that it shows up in the news feed more often. And that means that we're helping other people find the information, right? So that's what I'm doing. I am going to like, because I got my phone, I'm going to like, and I'm going to share it. And where I'm sharing mine at is actually my personal timeline. And also the closed group too. I always have to laugh because I don't know why, but some of the buttons on my phone, sometimes they don't always work the way I want them to. And so I'm going to share it to the closed group for the Star Nations Radio Network. And we're just going to let them know that I'm live streaming right now. And to please join us. And the hard part is spelling correctly. All right, there we go. There. That one was easy. And now I'm just going to do my timeline quick here. And we'll do that, do the news feed, and we're going to post. There. That was done. It's done. Just want to make sure my sound is down, because I don't want to get it all squelchy when I hit the. Because what I should do is check to make sure my voice is being heard, right? It is, yay! Absolutely. All right. So this show, the subject of it, I have to say that it's been really, really busy here. For a lot of different reasons, is Tuesdays are always busy here at Star Nations because of the number of shows that we have on Tuesdays and live stream shows. And also, this past week, my husband Paul he was diagnosed with pneumonia. So everything that I had planned to do kind of got pushed back. And you can only push stuff off so far before they start accumulating, right? And so that's what happened. Been up to my eyeballs in magazine stuff. Star Nations magazine. We're on the cusp of publishing, and so trying to smush all of that into a short time frame, right? And but we're right on schedule. Worked a couple late nights, and we're back on track. We were finally back on track this afternoon, which is good. Yeah. Say, Rochelle Lottie's in the house. Good evening, Rochelle. And since I'm using Be Live TV, I can do these cool things. I can show people your comments. In the mornings, I do a live stream as well, but that's what Facebook calls a native live stream, which means that we're not using a third-party app for it. It's just a plain old live stream, and so in the mornings I can't do the cool stuff like this. All right, so tonight is all about vows, and how I even got to that topic for this evening. I think it was Saturday. Saturday, I was conversing with my spiritual team and asking, what would be the most important topic to cover for this particular show tonight. And I was so busy, it was kind of hard to slow down to listen, right? And so I tried again on Sunday. And this time, I literally stopped and I went and sat in the Four Seasons and just kind of got quiet and connected. And I only heard one word, vows. And so I thought, okay, well, I used to teach about this stuff, so we'll dig out the old notes and see what we can cover and what is meant to be revealed tonight and how we do with it, right? Okay, so I'm going to put my name up there just in case there's a few people who might not know who I am. Thank you, Rochelle. Rochelle said she just shared it. Thank you. I appreciate that. One of the things I also know that was going on today, because it happened during my live stream show this morning, and it happened to Julie's show live stream, her native live stream on Monday, which was yesterday. For some reason, I don't know, Facebook kept kicking people out. And so it was hard for them to come back in. And so it was, I know Julie said she had to restart, I think twice, to get her native live stream to get done. The Meta Mondays, right? Rob says, I don't know who you are. I don't know who I am sometimes either, Rob. It could be one of those past live things. Who am I today? Just kidding. All right. So here's his comment. Rob has a wicked sense of humor, and I love it. It makes me laugh. Sometimes it's just dry enough for you that you go, I'm not sure if that was a joke. I think it was a joke. Oh, yep, that was sarcasm. Okay. So anyway, the vows. When, and we have all made a vow of one kind or another, right? Some possibly that are not as serious as another. And I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, there's a thing called pinky. Pinky, swear by your pinky, right? Pinky swears. That's where I got the picture for the promotion for this show. Pinky swears. And as kids, we used to do that, right? And that was swearing to your friend to not do or to do something, usually to keep a secret or, that you're going to be there or something. Now, those, depending on what the topic is or was, sometimes those pinky swears were kind of serious. They were serious because you were promising something to a friend, right? Sometimes those were our earliest vows, our earliest times of taking an oath or making an oath. A little iced tea. And in those early days, we might have some people actually belong to organizations at a young age, such as Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, Brownies. I never did any of that. I was too busy working. We were dancing and performing, which is a different kind of vow. We had contracts. We had contracts that we had to fulfill that my dad would get on our behalf since we were minors to do performances, right? And so contracts Contracts are a vow in a way because you're signing your name that you're promising or you're agreeing to do X, Y, or Z. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, we got somebody new here. Esperanza. Hello. I'm new to your show, but I'm a student of Polly Joe's Mystical Healing Energies. Yes, I saw you that your name in the chat this morning, or actually at noon, would have been Eastern time for Polly Joe's show. Welcome. We appreciate you being in the chat room for this show too, to get to know each other, right? And so so we make all kinds of vows, all kinds of promises. Many times we sign our names to documents. And so why is this even important to talk about, right? From a spiritual point of view, all of those promises, all of those vows, oaths, swearing by, those actually get recorded. Yes, we do have a permanent record. It's called our Akashic Records. And so everything that we have done, our soul has done, experienced, goes into our Akashic Record, our soul's Akashic Record. And so all of those vows that we've ever taken are sitting in our Akashic Record. Now, some of those vows may not be as serious. You know, if you promised your childhood best friend that you would always meet them, you know, at such and such a time on the playground, and you did a pinky swear to it, you know, that's sitting in your Akashic Record, but chances are that it's not going to become an interference or a barrier. It is. That's sweet. Rochelle is welcoming Esperanza. I like that. Thank you, Rochelle. And so what's sitting in your Akashic Records in vows, oaths, swearing, promises, those kinds of things, sometimes, depending on what they are, they can become a barrier. They can become an interference to your soul growth in this particular lifetime. In the physical life that you're experiencing right now, and for instance, an example, many times in, let's say, a church kind of situation, you have decided that you are going to be a priest, a nun, a monk, or something like that, right? And there are vows taken for those particular paths. And actually there's many vows that are taken in those paths. And one of them could have been a vow of silence. It could have been a vow of poverty. It could have been a vow of charity, right? And so both the positive and negative vows actually sit in your Akashic Record. Now, at the time that you may have made that vow of silence, it was for a specific reason and purpose in that particular lifetime. But those vows continue to sit in your Akashic Records. And so it's possible that that vow of silence could become a barrier or a block in this particular lifetime, because let's say in this lifetime, your soul decided to experience being an attorney or somebody who uses their voice a lot, like maybe an auctioneer. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a really serious situation, but it could be an impediment to your soul growth. As an auctioneer, you have to use your voice. It's kind of silly to become an auctioneer and have stage fright, to have the use of your voice not be available to you, right? And so your experience as a soul in that particular career path becomes an impediment. It becomes a barrier, an interference. And sometimes you do everything you possibly can do to be better at it and you keep running into a block, that stone wall, right? And so finally maybe you come to realize that there's such a thing as Akashic records, and there are people trained to be able to have access to the records, specifically for a particular person by name and birth date usually, and they can actually go in and remove that vow. Yeah. Now the thing is that when you remove the vow, you want to keep the life lessons in there. And you can remove any trauma that has occurred around that vow. And it's called disavowing that vow, and get it removed from your Akashic record, keeping the life lesson there so you don't have to relearn that. Yeah. Hey, Cindy Lynn's in the house. Good evening, Cindy Lynn. Yeah. And Terry Williams is here too. Hi, Terry. So good you guys could join us. And Esperanza was saying, thank you for the warm welcome. I did share your show with a few great friends. I'd like to say hello to Lisa Craycraft, who is watching now. Well, hello, Lisa. Hello. Because we're using Be Live TV app, this is how we can do this kind of cool kind of stuff, right? I really don't know who is in the chat until you guys say hello, until you say something. And that way your name kind of pops up in the live studio. And so I know that you're there. So if you'd just like to say hi and just to let me know that you're there, that's great. See, Amy Daniels just popped in with a smiley face. Just like that. Yeah. So welcome, everybody. We're talking about vows tonight, and how they can become blocks, or how they can become interference in your soul growth in this particular lifetime. And as an example, I was using nuns, priests, or monks, and sometimes the kind of vow that they take would be a vow of silence. And even if they in this particular lifetime, let's say that they were, okay, here's one, is that vow of silence could be a blocker barrier to having a healthy relationship with your spouse or your significant other, because it would be hard for you to express yourself. Communication could be hard. It could be hard. You could have those moments where it's difficult to express your feelings because you're searching for the words, the verbal words to express those. And so sometimes those kind of vows are an hindrance. They're an interference to your soul's growth, because it's possible that the marriage or the partnership that you have is getting affected by that particular vow because it's hard to communicate. And so you're trying everything that you can, right? That's what we usually do, is we try to look for the physical, sense of it. Maybe we're in therapy because maybe we think it's a mental block, and those kinds of things. Until one day you hear about Akashic records, and they start talking about vows and oaths. Yeah. And I was thinking about, when I was preparing for the show, and I was looking at a whole bunch of different kind of vows that I'm going to show you in a second. But I was thinking about the flip side of that too, is what happens when we make a vow, a promise, we take an oath, we sign a contract in this lifetime, and we don't keep our word. We don't keep our promise. We become what is called oath breakers. And what happens then when you have declared, possibly in front of witnesses, such as in a marriage vow, or you made promises, and you break that, right? So with your soul growth and in breaking that vow, there's a life lesson to that, right? And so that also goes into your Akashic record. That's why it's so important for us to do our healing work. Because especially if it's in the current lifetime and you have this issue of not keeping a promise or breaking a vow or disavowing that vow, right? Breaking it. We still have to heal around that. Because I was talking to my spiritual team about that particular situation. And what happens? What happens when you make a promise and you break it in the current lifetime? And it all revolves around our soul contract and seeing it through. Sometimes it's about facing our fears within that, being better at communication, those kinds of things. And then also healing any trauma that has occurred around that, right? And this is also where forgiveness comes into the picture, both in the current lifetime or in any past lives that you may be holding some guilt around breaking a vow or rescinding or something like that. It's all about our healing work, right? So let's see. Here we go. Rob, what's Rob saying? I'm staying silent so you won't know I'm here. Rob, we always know you're here. We can. We sense your energy. Oh my gosh. And Rochelle's laughing with Rob. Oh my gosh. All right. And so is Cindy Lynn. I tell you, that Rob, he keeps us entertained. And Rochelle is saying, when you see this week, when I see you this weekend, I'll tell you about my ventures at the convent. Oh, that'd be interesting. I bet you made some vows there, huh? Yep. And those are sitting in your Akashic record. And sometimes they're just fine. You know, you completed them and they're part of your soul growth and there's nothing to change. It's when it becomes a block or a barrier that to this lifetime, to this soul growth in this lifetime, that we need to do something about it. Yeah. And Esperanza, oh no, getting divorced was a hard decision, but I know it was for the best. I now made a new vow to love, honor, and cherish myself. Ah, that's nice. That's really good. But that is a great segue because I've got something here to show you. Let me scroll through the pictures here. Let's see. I think this is the one. And I have to bring it up so I can actually see it because it's kind of small. Oops, wrong document. I wonder if I closed that. I might have. So here we go. I just got to get the document up. All right. So what I wanted to show you was the vow for, it's called, well, when I found it, it's called a common Catholic wedding vow. And it's not just Catholics in the wedding vow. Many of the more traditional wedding vows had this verbiage in it. And so it reads that, you know, stating the name of the groom, will you take, and then you state the bride's name here present, for your lawful wedded husband or wife according to the rite of the Holy Mother and the Catholic Church. And then they're supposed to respond, right? And then they say, this is part of the vows. Then they say, I take you, whoever it is, for my husband or wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. With this ring I thee wed and pledge thee my troth. Okay. So in that verbiage, in that language, in that vow, there's that one line that says, until death do us part. Which means that vow is going to sit in your Akashic record until one of you crosses over, even if you divorce. And so if you have, if you've been married and had more traditional vows, you need to take a look at those vows and see what it is that you're working with, so that you can go into your Akashic records and disavow that portion or the entire vow, leaving the life lessons there, breaking the vow, rescinding it. It's also called disavowing, and also removing any trauma around the situation, so that that is not sitting in your Akashic record. That's not sitting in your etheric body, okay, in your physical body either. And so that is probably one of the things I've helped more people with since I learned about vows and Akashic records and that sort of thing, is helping people to heal from their divorce, or when they're looking for to be in a relationship with another person, and they find that their relationship after relationship, they start out fine, they're healthy relationships, but when it comes time to actually make a commitment, it kind of falls through. And so taking a look and into their Akashic records and finding that it was a part of their original marriage vows in this lifetime that needs to be taken care of, cleaned up, so to speak. I'm going to check the chat here. All right. Got to scroll down there. I'm loving it. You guys are chatting it up. All right. So Jane, hi Jane. Thanks for being here. She says, guilt over small contracts can be as traumatic and guilt-ridden as other life events. Example, starting a course, but when you start realize it's not right and do not continue. That's true. That is really very true, Jane. Especially when you've made, that commitment, right? You signed a piece of paper saying you're going to do this class, or possibly you have a grant or some sort of agreement for the payment of that class, right? Yeah. Yeah. And she goes on to say that having signed a college contract and then breaking it, right? And usually with contracts, there is a way to break the contract legally. And so you have to be able to fall within that, right? But even when you do that, sometimes you still have the guilt around it, because you might have made a different kind of promise, a promise to yourself, or a promise to someone that you love, a promise that you're going to do this, and you find out that you can't. And so therein lies the life lesson, I think, is having to face that, right? Yeah. In the morning live streams, I draw a card for the energy of the day. And when we were using the Sacred Path cards, there's a card within that deck that's called Counting Coup. And the Counting Coup is really about facing yourself, your shadow self, and facing your fears and counting coup on them, neutralizing them, basically. Okay, and Rob says, yeah, that particular one can prove problematic, eh? Yeah, that one can. He's talking, I think you're talking about the vow until death do us part. And Rochelle says, how about a death of love? I don't know what that means, Rochelle. You're going to have to explain a little bit more on that one. And Rob is saying, I watched my father-in-law drink himself to death over that one. Yeah. Yeah. It's especially when it is so entwined and enmeshed into your religious belief, right? When it's enmeshed that way, there are so many layers of intent and understanding, or lack of understanding. I have to say that there's a lot of people who have taken a marriage vow that really didn't consider what those vows were. They really didn't. Back in the day, before we started writing our own vows, The pastor or the priest or even the judge, they have it comes out of the Bible for the religious end and the legal end for the judge, right? But they would say the words, and we would say I do or I will, but we never really stop to consider, what are we really saying here? What are we really promising to do in that vow? Yeah. It's a serious matter, really it is. When you make promises that way. And it's just not for marriages either. Rob is saying my grandfather too, but they did finally divorce. Still, he was hooked, and that's how he went out. Yeah. Well, then there was the addiction thing, right? Thank you, Jane. Great subject to think on. And great retrograde, keep freezing up, kicking me out. Oh, great. Well, I'm glad you're sticking with it, though, Cindy Lynn. What can I say? Light a candle. Ask Mercury to come in and to help you clear the way. You can use Archangel Michael. You can also ask Ganesh to clear the path. Yeah. All right. So the other thing that I wanted to share, a couple other different kind of vows. That was the marriage vow. It's called a common Catholic vow. And got to scroll down a little bit. All right. I got my document up, and there's also a couple here that I thought you guys would like to see. I want to make sure I have the right one up. And I got to make my screen a little bit bigger. We have to go to that first one. And there's a couple other vows that actually are really pretty good. I was reading through them, and I thought, wow, if I were going to get, if we're going to say our vows again, I would do something like this. There is a traditional Celtic wedding vow. This one, you really have to stop and consider what the words are. Okay, so I'm going to read it. It says, ye are blood of my blood and bone of my bone. I give ye my body, that we two might be one. I give ye my spirit, till our life shall be done. You cannot possess me, for I belong to myself, but while we both wish it, I give you that wish, which is mine to give. You cannot command me, for I am a free person, but I shall serve you in those ways you require, and the honeycomb will taste sweeter coming from my hand. Now, the part of that one is the blood of my blood, the bone of my bone, and I give you my body, that we two might be one. Now, there's a part of that one that is also kind of, it does mean that that you would actually give your life for the other. Yeah. And you're promising to do that. Mm-hmm. But you can also see how in the time that was written, in the time that people were finding partnerships that way, that it was a really hard life in Scotland. A very difficult life for the Indigenous people of Scotland. And so basically it was, I will keep you safe. And of course, that was something they were looking for, right? And Cindy Lynn says, I tend to stay away from making promises unless I know I can honor them fully, no matter what. Some people take them not as seriously. That's true. And it's good, that you consider it, right? You take it in, and is this something I can really do? Yeah. All right. And so the next one that I found is an Irish vow of unity. It says, we swear by peace and love to stand, heart to heart and hand in hand. Mark, O Spirit, and hear us now, confirming this our sacred vow. I kind of like that one. I like that one. It's not until the death do us part thing. And that, that you're promising to stand together, and to actually have to create peace together too. Yeah. Amy Daniels of the last one, the Scottish one. Holy cow. And Cindy Lynn, how are those wow, those are similar to the vows I had with my late husband. Yeah. And there, the vows can be good. I'm not saying we shouldn't make vows. We just have to be really aware of what we're promising. And here's another one, a handfast ceremony. It says, now you are bound one to the other with a tie not easy to break. Take the time of binding before the final vows are made to learn what you need to know, to grow in wisdom and love, that your marriage will be strong, that your love will last in this life and beyond. Okay, so with that one, and usually hand fasting, they do a hand fasting is a year and a day. And so at the end of the year and the day, that one day, they have to make the decision, are we going to stay together and actually do a marriage vow, or do we part ways? And I don't think that's such a bad idea, that you get to know each other before you actually make that marriage vow about blood of my blood and bone of my bone, right? Right. So the part of that last vow is also that last line that says that your love will last in this life and beyond. So you could look at that as like another until death do us part, but it actually goes beyond that. And I had to sit with that one for a little bit and think about that, and ask my spiritual team about it. And I said, does that mean that you are connected to that other soul even after your physical death? And it was a yes, but we are anyway, because we travel in soul groups. And so the chances are that you already love the soul. So making that as part of your physical connection here on earth is not such a bad thing, unless you get divorced. And if you get divorced, then you have a whole different situation again, right? All right. So that's the hand fasting, and that's a year and a day. A year and a day. Scroll down, and Rob is saying the ancient Scots were people who amused themselves by hitting rocks with crooked sticks into gopher holes. I know. Golf. It's not any different than Indigenous people here on Turtle Island. When we created the game of lacrosse, that is a wicked game, man. That is a physical game. It's almost giving you permission to pound somebody else into the ground. It's like, wow. It's kind of like hockey in a way, sort of. And Jane is saying that is the Druid's vow, not a marriage vow, said in ceremony from OBOD. I'm sorry, but what's OBOD, Jane? I don't know what that means. If you could let me know, I would appreciate that. Yeah, I like the last one too, Cindy Lynn. I do too. The one before starting, we swear, is the OBOD ceremony, not specifically marriage. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I've got another one here. We're going to take this one down. That's that one. And then we got one last one. One last page. And this is more, not so much about, these vows are not so much about marriages, but it's about those vows that we make in a career sense. The first one is an oath of a commissioned officer, and we're talking about specifically here Army, okay, but all branches have nearly the same oath of office. It says, I blank do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God. Yeah. Now, I come from a military family, and so I've heard many of my family members say this oath, and they do. It's coming from their heart. There's something that they have chosen that they want to do, and so I think this is just my 2 cents, but I think that's why lifetime after lifetime, there are many souls who end up being warriors, being people who protect and serve. Yeah, because this is still sitting in their Akashic record. They might have made an oath somewhere else in another past life or a parallel life, very similar to that one, and so they have the same kind of experience, is what I'm trying to say. And the next one is a police officer's oath. And this one says, the widely used oath embraced by the International Association of Chief of Police reads, on my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for their actions. I will always uphold the Constitution, my community, and the agency I serve. Well, I think that there are many, many officers who take that oath to heart and are really good officers and peacekeepers, I think is another term that we use for them, have used in the past. Peacekeepers. When I read that one, where my thoughts went was what I saw and experienced when I was at Standing Rock, and also all of the videos and all of that came out of Standing Rock with the water protectors, and what police officers from many different states that were called in to help with that, and were militarized, right? With my own opinion, is that I think that there were several police officers who were oath breakers. They broke their oath. And, we probably see it more often than we had in the past. And also because information is so readily, right? I mean, something happens, in another state or across the world, and we hear about it in the next couple of minutes, So everything is so immediate. But I think that was also something for us to look at, to witness, and to witness the oath breaking, so that we could compare it to those officers who really are good officers, right? And those are the ones that we need to pay attention to, right? And to be grateful for. Yeah. Thank you, Jane. Order of the Bards, Ophiots, and Druids. Thank you. I was just watching a video. It's out of the UK, and it's actually pretty good stuff. In fact, I marked it as I liked it, and I'm going to start following it. So I appreciate that. Thank you for explaining that. And Rob, I know this. Hockey was derived from lacrosse. I knew that. And he says, a big stick and permission to use it. Hockey doesn't. Oh my gosh. And Rob is saying, how about the oath of the President of the United States? That one is taking a beating at present. Yeah, that was one that I didn't copy out, but I did copy to share with you the U.S. Senator oath of office, because it is very similar to the president's, but it's not exactly the same. And this one reads, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of which I am about to enter. So help me God. Now that is so very similar, almost exactly wording of a commissioned officer in the military. Yeah. I think that, and the reason why I copied out the one for the senators is because of exactly what you were saying, Rob, is about the oath of office, is that it's taking a beating these days. Yeah. So, when we're talking about oaths and spirituality, and our oaths sitting in our Akashic records, rarely do we stop and think about those that hold a special position, usually an elected position, or like a police officer or a military person, that we stop and think about the oaths that they take and how those sit in the Akashic records, their Akashic records. And when we're talking about what we're doing right now, as Rob had put, is taking a beating in the present. That it also gives us an opportunity to remind those that we have elected that they have taken an oath. And if they're not willing to keep the oath, then they're called oath breakers. And they need to know from us, their constituency, about that. Now that's just my 2 cents. And that's what I've done. And yes, I am still spiritual, but I have to be able to use my voice too, right? And also my fingers as I type email messages to my elected officials. And so there's all kinds of oaths that sit in our Akashic records. And Amy is saying, I think we always had these issues with the police, but with social media, we hear about everything now. Yes, I agree. And we hear about it almost immediately, right? Almost immediately. It doesn't take very long for us to get that kind of, I'm going to put it in air quotes, news. Yeah, that's a whole nother show. Here's one that I wanted to share with you, because this is one that I use as an example in the past when I would teach these classes about our soul growth, right? And this one is a quote from Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the Wind. Her line was, as God is my witness, they're not going to lick me. I'm going to live through this, and when it's all over, I'll never be hungry again. No, nor any of my folk. If I have to lie, steal, cheat, or kill, as God is my witness, I'll never be hungry again. And so that particular oath, yes, sits in her Akashic record. If she was a real human being, right, that would be also sitting in the Akashic record. And those are the kind of oaths that we do quite often, actually. We say things like, as God is my witness, or those are the ones that are really emotionally laden, and they carry a lot of power with them. And as we take that for an example, that when we do those kind of vows, you can almost feel the energy as it reaches across the dimensions, right? If you did a past life vow like that. And so here you are in this particular lifetime, and you may have something like that sitting in your Akashic records, and you can see how it can become an interference or a block to your soul growth in this one. It's possible, very possible, that it was that kind of vow in that particular life may have been well intended. It may have been served a purpose, right? But in this particular lifetime, it doesn't serve a purpose. And so when we are having those kind of interferences with our soul growth, and we can identify if there's a oath in our Akashic record, we do have the tools that we can go in and we can clutter clear. We can go in and they call it disavowing those particular vows. We can do that. And there's Rob. I got to show this one. Consequences, schmonsequences, as long as I'm rich, quote, Daffy Duck. I remember that cartoon. I remember that episode. And it's true, though. It's true that we have to be consciously aware of the vows that we make. And there are some that are really very potent, very potent. There's blood oaths. Blood oaths. Has anybody in the live chat here, have any of you ever made a blood oath? That's a good question, because I think that is probably the most serious of oaths to make and to keep. I have done that twice in my life. In this particular lifetime, probably, I haven't looked in my Akashic records for the past ones. Chances are there aren't any sitting in there because I haven't noticed any kind of interference to speak of. But the first one I made, I believe I was 10 or 11. Grade school. Me and two friends. It wasn't exactly my idea, but I knew about them. We got it from television. And I remember the day we took it. We were going to be friends forever. We're going to be sister friends forever. and we did the poking to get the blood and the transferring. And I have to say that I'm still in contact with one of those three. We've been friends since the 3rd grade. And in fact, she's my bookkeeper now. And, we've been together all these years. And the third person, Dawn, she comes in and out, we keep track of each other, but our relationship isn't quite as strong as mine and Marley's. And Marley and I, we share some past life stuff too. And so that was, to work through that was really good to be able to do that. All right. Let's see. Got to catch up with you guys. Hang on. Okay. Amy is saying that, do you know how these vows affect actors, etc., when they say them for a television show? Well, first of all, they're not saying it in their own name. Okay. It's not in they're under their own name. I would say that it probably triggered something in them. I don't think it sits in their Akashic record, though. No, I don't. I'm hearing a no. That doesn't know. But there's a reason why they were selected to be in that movie and saying those lines. Chances are, that they have some sort of experience with a past life or a parallel life with that. All right. Rob says no to the blood oath, but not in this life, but close. Mm-hmm. And he's also saying the Masonic oaths are no longer blood oaths. Yeah. Oh, yeah. When did they change that, Rob? History on that. Cindy Lynn. Yep, I remember those. Yeah. I'd rather do the pinky swears. Because with the blood oaths, I tell you what, my mom was not happy with me when I told her about that first one. She goes, I can still hear it today. She was saying, "Oh my gosh, do you know what you just did? Now you're going to be responsible for them for the rest of your life." And I said, "But we swore that we're going to be friends and sisters for the rest of our lives." And so yeah, she wasn't happy with that one. And she was okay with the second one. Yeah, and she says, there's a lot to learn with this one. And what I need to do though is find out if we can disavow a vow in the Akashic records, and a ceremony for that. I do have a ceremony for that. I need to find out about the more powerful ones, the more potent ones, like the blood ceremony. Can those be taken out of the Akashic records as well or not? And I haven't spent any time with that, but chances are there's probably a way to do it. Yeah, there's a way to do it. I just need to learn the ceremony for it. All right, so Rob is saying, I thought a blood oath was succeed or die trying. Well, I think it depends on the intent and what you are promising. What you're promising. Yeah. I think that's the intent is probably the more important thing there. And Cindy Linus and I took them seriously when others did not. But Jacqueline friends for 30 years and going strong. See, that works, doesn't it? And Rob is saying, I'm not sure, but I was initiated in 2006. So before then, I want to say sometimes towards the end of the 20th century, but I can't go into much more detail. Okay, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. So what do we do with all this information about vows and oaths and Akashic records? I would like to say that if you have taken a vow or oath in this particular lifetime, and it's no longer serving the purpose that you intended, such as a wedding vow or a vow from a career, something like that, that there are trained practitioners in the Akashic records that they can help you to remove that vow or that oath from your Akashic records, keeping the life lessons and removing any trauma around it. And that is actually part of your healing work, to be able to do that. Yeah, and if you find that you have tried everything to move forward with a part of your soul growth, and it feels like you bump up against this wall, no matter which direction you turn or whatever you try, then I would go to somebody who knows about reading Akashic records and asking them if they can search your records for any vows that are in your Akashic records that no longer serve a purpose. That's what I would do. Yeah. Let's see. Rob is saying, but the grotesque penalties of which everyone is familiar are still taught as symbolic. Yeah. That's a whole different thing, isn't it? About another thing is the belief systems, the underpinnings of those vows, the belief systems that hold them in place. Right. And that's another way of clearing your Akashic records or clutter clearing for yourself, is to go through the belief systems that you may have that no longer support you or serve a purpose any longer. I did that a few years ago, probably like a decade or more ago. And is that still a truth for me? If it was still a truth for me, I kept it. And if it was no longer a truth for me, I let it go. And sometimes it's a hard thing. It's like a bad habit to break. is to let some of those belief systems go, because we grew up with them. They're ingrained. And so you really have to be consciously aware of it, and to be able to say, oh, there it is again. Let me look at that. All right, let's do this a little differently. And so it's a conscious awareness of it. So I'm hoping that the information tonight was useful, that you were able to have an aha moment, maybe. That would be nice. Here's a little something I want to share before we say goodnight. We're still taking registrations for the Introduction to Shamanic Journey here at Star Nations Academy in Toma, August 11th and 12th. That's Saturday and Sunday. It's a full day on Saturday, 10 to about 5. And then on Sunday, about 9:30 to noon-ish, we'll go. For those people who are traveling, they still have enough time to travel homeward. So you can find out more information about this particular class by going to starnations.org and click on the Academy button, and then scroll down and you'll be able to find it. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. We're actually on Sunday, I made a decision, I think it was two days ago, to do a different kind of journey work on Sunday. On Sunday, we're going to actually travel through our physical body, and we're going to go into our physical heart to locate the spiritual heart and do some work there. So I can't wait. So with that, enjoy the rest of your evening and your Tuesday evening. And hopefully you'll join us for Polly Joe's show tomorrow night, Wednesday, at 7 p.m. Eastern. And that is Soul Connections. And with that particular hour and a half, is really meant to heal the healer. You're working with your own spiritual team, and Polly Joe creates the sacred space and to assist us in releasing whatever and healing whatever that needs to be done. And so we're working with our own individual teams. It is a very powerful hour. And if you haven't taken time to do your own healing work as a healer, that's a good night to do that. So have a wonderful rest of the evening. And we'll see you next week for Communications from Home. And we'll see you then. Bama Mina, until we see each other again.